This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman and Riley Smith. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Today is Friday, May the 6th, and coming up this weekend is Mother's Day, and that's why we're having a special Mother's Day edition of Ag Matters PM. We'll have a special guest joining us in just a little bit. We'll also have a rundown of your ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down those markets. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. All right, well, the markets are now closed for the rest of the week, and we talk with Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. Jacob, how are things looking as we get that closing bell coming up?
As we wrapped it up here, settlement prices are going to be rather ugly here in the corn and grain and bean market. We had a sell-off there late last night, came in this morning, found some buyers early this morning, ended up pushing this marketplace down towards the close. Going to end up closing about 10 cents off the lows in the corn market, and you're going to be about 6 to 8 cents off the lows in the soybeans. So not a terrible day of trading. I think the last time I was on, we talked a little bit about the fact that if you're worried about a 10 to 20 cent move in these prices at this price level, you're going to make yourself sick here through the summer. And especially going through this planting season. But all in all, it's going to be a little bit negative in the corn and beans. Wheat market here is going to be kind of a mixed bag here. Your hard red winter wheat in Kansas City going to be down about 6 cents on the day, and then Chicago is going to be pretty quiet, up to 1 to 2 cents higher on the day.
Yeah, I was looking at it just before we came on, and it looked like Chicago wheat was about the only positive in any of the markets today. I mean, what's moving it down is the fact that now everybody's kind of looking like, hey, we're going to be able to get some planting done in the Midwest, and now they're backing off a little bit.
Yeah, I think right now this is what the focus is right now is how does this grain market react when we see a big number eventually get planted. And don't forget about the spring wheat out there. We were a measly penny higher there on the day too. So that was the other green on the screen. You got to look across at what this weather market, what this forecast is looking at. You're going to see a better number come Monday in the planting progress. Sounds like this weekend could be good for some the Eastern Corn Belt to pound some grain in. But your same spots all week long just didn't get dried out. There wasn't enough heat, and so whatever we do really today, this weekend across the upper part of the Corn Belt. Will be what we see on Monday. And then now starting Monday, as we go through that next week, that could be the week that we boom this planting progress with a big number with the equipment that we have and how fast we can get a crop in. But your same spots that we're worried about, that southern part of Minnesota, northern Iowa, for the forecast, it just doesn't look like they're going to get a whole lot of break. And that's the stuff that we could be watching as we go in to the first week of June even. At the end of May. So, the planning progress is going to be focused on what we're getting put in the ground. I don't see a huge number on Monday coming, but there's going to be some guys even locally around here in the southwest part of Wisconsin is going to be getting some corn and beans probably put in the ground this weekend.
I know we're looking at tomorrow already sunny in 70s, which means that the ground's going to start to dry out. Don't know how much rain we're supposed to get forecasted on Sunday, but even when we start hitting those mid 80s and upper 80s in Iowa here coming up on Monday, we're going to still be looking at a day or two before we can even get dry enough before we can get those planters in, just with the amount of moisture we've seen. So, I mean, it's kind of that, we got to still wait just a little bit longer, but it's going to be interesting once we get rolling. I don't think it's going to take us very long at all because everybody's just been chomping at the bit so bad here in Iowa.
Yeah, you can make a lot of excuses for today's price action. That's kind of how we do that. We look at the price movement and we start trying to find a reason for it. Next thing you know, you turn your head and it's changed again. So seeing a 10 to 15 cent move pull back in the corn market, not the end of the world. As you go through planting in the month of May seasonally, this is kind of what you see. You see this corn start it's not even going in the ground, but being talked about going into the ground, have a little bit better forecast, and you see these pullbacks. So it's not a it should fear you a little bit. We're at 720 corn. The fact that we could have a 50-cent pullback in this marketplace and still be in a bullish market. So I think that all the fundamentals are still there to the point that we have to grow a record crop. I think the other thing that this does as we continue to push the planting back is it kind of solidifies the March number that we saw in the corn bean ratio of what's going to get planted. I think as the planters were rolling, if we were rolling right now and blasting out some big numbers, I think that you could possibly see more acres go to corn. But the further that we push this thing back, the less likelihood that we're going to see any of those extra bean acres come back to corn. So I think if nothing else, it's solidifying that. So I do feel like we're at an elevated level. I feel like that as we pound the corn in, I think that we have some risk of seeing a decent sized pullback. But it doesn't change the fact that we are going to have to see basically a record yield to keep that ending stocks number above that billion bushel number that everybody seems to be focused on. So I think that we will see a huge number. We always do see a big number of planting progress. I just don't see that coming off of this week. Hopefully these temperatures will allow some guys to dry up and get in the ground and get some corn in the ground this week.
All right, now looking at the livestock side of things, I know cattle had a rough couple days, and hogs, boy, they coming into today, they thought things were starting to not necessarily turn around hugely, but they were seeing some positive momentum. What happened out there?
You know, I grew up a Razorback fan growing up in Arkansas, and the hogs have let me down a lot over the years. This seems to be the follow through here, where the hogs, cut such a head fake coming off the inventory numbers that we saw a month ago, and lower supply. Thought that we could see some summer hogs that could really get fun and get crazy, and I don't really want to give up on them, but man, it's been a letdown. And I think the main focus of that is where are we going to go with them. We start seeing shutdowns globally, and mostly the Asian area and China shutting down large buyers of pork, and we're just not going to have that exit strategy there with some of this pork. And I think that's technically. That story has probably been told quite a bit. I know Brian was talking about it yesterday, and we focused on this gap that we left down around 101. We filled that gap, we bounced off of it, and then bam, today we came back and we sell the hogs off for $3. Hopefully we'll find that support again down there, and even if we could just chop around down here in the 104 to 110 level and get some type of base set in these summer hogs, and hopefully we can see some demand come back if we start opening up the global economy and maybe get some good export sales coming down since we're down here at these levels. Cattle market cash was pretty steady this week. I think that your same type of we want to be standing over a grill this weekend and flipping steaks and flipping burgers. But man, this might be the first weekend that we get an opportunity to do that. So that grilling season really hasn't helped that boxed beef price out near enough. And we've seen a big fall. I think yesterday was one of the larger down days in boxed beef that we've seen in a while, and the demand side just really isn't able to keep up on that cattle market. We see a pretty good discount, which we typically do. So from a technical standpoint, the cattle have been chopping around here, and we'll have to wait and see if that demand will lift us out of this cattle. Obviously, we've seen a strong inverse, between the feeder cattle and corn. We were at elevated levels. I mean, you guys take the 10,000 foot view of this cattle market, and we're at higher levels. And up here at this plateau that we've kind of put in on this cattle market, we have seen the feeder cattle kind of chop back and forth. Corn down, feeder cattle be up. You can kind of count on it. Today's just another day here. We're down 10 cents in the corn. We only get like a 30 to 50 cent recovery in the feeder cattle. So the story is yet to be told there.
All right. Well, Jacob, we thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us. And if folks need to talk some market strategies with agmarket.net, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Dustin, we're just encouraging everybody to go to the website there, agmarket.net. From there, you can get our intel and sign up for a free trial. You'll get all the intel that we have. All of our numbers are there that if you see somebody that you want to chat with or something that we say on here, give us a call, and you can find us. The easiest way to find us is right there on that agmarket.net.
All right. Well, Jacob, thanks so much for the insight, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
You bet. Have a good weekend.
That again was Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. Let's run down those closing numbers, courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart.
At the close, July corn is down 12 3/4 at 784 3/4. December corn down 17 3/4 at 720 3/4. July soybeans down 25 even at 1622 even. November soybeans down 21 even at 1470 3/4. Soybean meal down $6.30 at $4.13.60. Soybean oil down 95 cents at $80.90. Chicago wheat up 2 even at $11.08 and a half. Minneapolis spring wheat down 1 even at $12.08 and 3/4. Kansas City hard red wheat down 6 and a half at $11.70 and a half. And July oats down 32 even at $6.27 and a half. On the Merc, live cattle down 67 cents at $135.35. Feeder cattle down 77 cents at $159.55. May lean hogs down 60 cents at $102.20. Pork cutout down $2.90 at $110.65. And Class 3 milk down 20 cents at $24.46.
And that's been your Ag Market recap here on Ag Matters PM. And of course, we're running a special program today for Mother's Day. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into that weather forecast. Well, we did see the sun return here for the most part in Des Moines. Now, there has been some cloud cover back and forth, but again, all in all, not a bad day out there. And it looks like things are going to start to warm up, and boy, are they going to warm up come early next week. Let's take a look at what the next 24 hours has in store from the National Weather Service. Well, the forecast looks pretty simple and straightforward today. We saw those clouds begin to break up and partly sunny conditions started to return, and we saw highs in the upper 50s to the upper 60s. Now tonight, look for partly cloudy skies and lows in the low to upper 40s. And tomorrow, mostly sunny skies and warmer, highs in the upper 60s to the mid 70s. Taking a look at the affiliate weather map for tomorrow, Cherokee expecting partly sunny skies in 66, Shenandoah sunny in 74, Des Moines sunny in 72, Waterloo and Albia both sunny skies and 70 degrees, Clinton sunny skies and a high of 68 degrees. And that's been your ag weather outlook here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to take a quick break and we'll hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. And when we come back, my mother's joining me in the studio. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Well, it's that time of year again. Hard to believe that we're already at Mother's Day 2022, a time when we all honor our mothers. And we also are going to look today at the farm moms, the ones that I wouldn't say necessarily behind the scenes, but they're the ones that usually keep everybody moving and keep the operation running, whether Dad likes to admit it or not. And this is either going to be my best idea or my worst idea, but I'm going to turn to the biggest authority I know on being a farm mom, and that is my own mom, Gail Huffman. Thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit, first of all, your story of what you remember growing up on the farm to, kind of where things are today. Tell us a little bit about how things have changed over your life.
I remember growing up driving the tractor the first time. I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I stood between my father's legs on the B John Deere, and he guided me through it. Over the years, I drove more tractors, bigger tractors. But the farm itself, we had a small herd of cows. We only had 13 cows, but it was enough to make the milkman come out every other day and get our milk. And I can remember my mother going to the bulk tank and skimming the cream for our whipped cream. We had chickens. We had maybe about 300-400 chickens, but at 4 o'clock in the summertime, they got left out, or they would, so they could go out and hunt and whatnot. And it's things like that you don't see anymore. You have the large chicken farms, the large hog farms. Hogs we used to just feed in a trough. But then again, we didn't have that money. And also the hogs stayed on, sometimes they almost had a birthday instead of being out in 3-4 months. Things have improved, but I don't know if I enjoyed growing up when I did. I enjoyed having a little more peace with it. Right now, there's a lot of record keeping that you have to keep, and I think it's a good way to go, but the small farms have died. They can't keep up with this. But like I said, as long as the farmers are feeding America, that's all I care about.
All right, so you've been doing this mother thing for about 42 years almost.
Right.
Tell everybody what it was like having that farm kid who probably didn't want to be a farm kid so much, but yet kind of appreciated and what was being done. But like I said, just didn't feel that was his calling.
When you were small, you used to sit and watch the tractors in the field, and you could do that for hours. But you loved the animals and stuff. I don't know if you were as much into the field work as you were more to the animals. The animals kept you going. They kept you on task because you were raised with the idea that no matter how you feel or what's going on in your life, the animals still need to eat morning and night. And to this day, you still have a compassion for the animals. But as far as the field work, you weren't into that as much. You did it, you helped. We wouldn't have made it as far as we did without you. But like I said, technology now has taken over. And for what I see that you're doing now, you are helping a lot of farmers and you're helping a lot of industries with this.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but looking at, you mentioned grandma would go out and skim the cream off the out of the bulk tank, but talk about also what you maybe learned from her as to what she did to help keep things moving. Obviously, I know Grandpa had a lot of let's call it passion for what he did and how he did it, but obviously someone had to keep him in line. So what did you learn from watching your mom?
Just to know that no matter what, the man that she married had to come first as far as what he wanted to do when we did it, because it had to revolve around the cows, it had to revolve around the animals. She would put her 2 cents worth in once in a while, but not a whole lot. But she basically just was there for whenever he needed help. If we walked beans by, just walking with a hoe, she was out there with the rest of us going right along, but she still had to get the dinner ready when we got home while my dad maybe laid down and rested for a few minutes. But no, it was, she had a place. She took care of the chickens. She didn't help with the cows, but when they were first married, she did help with some of the field work until a hay wagon tipped over.
We've all been there. So obviously you talked about how it was different for grandma. You were more involved, I would say, from what you just told me from grandma, and you definitely were a little more vocal. But then again, like I said, it was the nut didn't fall far from the tree either, as far as taking the reins on some things or taking the bull by the horns. So tell us a little bit about how you did things a little bit differently than what grandma did.
I did do some of the field work, mostly the disking and the chopping. I hauled loads to town when we were combining. We never had the combine ourselves, so when it worked for my brother and my husband to get together on when it was going to be, that was when I helped haul the loads and unloading the loads and stuff at night after work or whatever, whenever it worked. So yes, I did more outside work than what my mother did, but she also kept things a little bit neater than I did.
And as you look at what women have done now in agriculture compared to what it was even when you were doing it, you see them managing the barns, and they're the ones calling the shots, and it's changed a lot, and that's across the board in general. But in agriculture, seeing some of these women step up, it's okay, maybe there wasn't a son in the family, but they took it over. And we know of one neighbor who would, if she wanted to get something in town, she had to go and load up her own hog, a lot of times in the loader bucket, and take it to town. But they're taking over and taking charge for what needs to be done as well.
The era that I grew up in, girls were first starting to be accepted into things. My senior year, first year for ag mechanics or woodworking in high school. We did not have sports teams. We had, it was called GAA, Girls Sports Association, whatever. But we did not have the teams. So Women in the agriculture, no, they worked twice as hard as a lot of people, but they didn't get the credit. And I'm glad to see now that this is happening. There's a lot of women with a lot of good ideas, and I'm glad that they're finally able to get going on this.
So now we're talking about too as being that farm wife that runs that kind of runs things behind the scenes. I mean, you and I did our fair share of work together when, I remember one great story where Dad had pneumonia,
Right.
or when he tore his ACL and he was on the laid up on the recliner for a few weeks each time. You and I, it wasn't a matter of, oh, how are we going to do this? It was, all right, let's grind feed, let's clean the barns, because it still has to get done, or whatever field work had to be done at the time. It has to be done. Let's get moving.
Exactly. It's just something you didn't think about. It was just the three of us. We had my brother and my dad, a quarter mile through the field and this type of thing. But as far as taking care of the yard and taking care of our animals, that fell on the two of us. And it came to Saturday morning cleaning up barns. We didn't think about it. All we did was put on our boots and our coveralls and went outside and cleaned barns.
Yeah, it's the whole thing of life moves on, whether you have time to think about it or not. Things happen, but yet the farm still has to move. And you've been a rock on the farm. I hate to bring this up, but 15 years ago almost, my dad passed away.
Yes.
What happened? Dad used to drill it in me, I guess, and you did too. But life always goes on, and that day he passed away. What did I do that night? I went right back out to the farm because things need to be taken care of. The animals needed to be fed. And then we worry about what we're doing next. And then the next morning, you just get up and do it again.
Exactly. The animals always came first. They, like you said, they needed to be taken care of. And not only that, they gave you kind of a comfort to have some type of normalcy. It's the routine of the thing that makes you work through things.
All right. So, as we look back at all the things you did too, I remember going out, help you'd make the meal, and then I'd have to you'd pull the truck up with the fuel barrel next to the our diesel barrel, and I had to load up the mobile one, and then we'd go out to the field while Dad was doing field work, and you'd get him lunch or whatever or dinner while I was manually pumping that fuel tank to get more fuel for Dad for the afternoon into the evening. And then I could go eat and stuff like that. So, not only were you taking care of animals, you were making sure that he had what he needed. Maybe it was run to town to get a part. Your job didn't just revolve around being in the house. It was, you had to be able to do everything to keep everything moving at the same time.
Exactly. I worked alongside with my husband many, many times. And I enjoyed it. We maybe argued a little bit, but that's when you live out in the farm, you're allowed to do that. Nobody hears you.
All right, so let's talk about one more thing here is something you remember from your time on the farm growing up, or even with me growing up, something that's always going to stick in your mind, maybe as a good memory, and no matter what goes on in the future, that you'll be able to cling on to that.
Okay, I can remember being maybe about 10, 12 years old, and we would shell corn by hand. Or with the sheller that my dad borrowed from somebody. And he said that he was going to have a little girl that wasn't afraid of mice. So he would give me a mouse to hold and to play with. And eventually we started getting a lot of field mice in the house. And my father realized that I wasn't giving them to the cats like I was supposed to. They came in the house. That ended soon. You growing up has meant everything to me. You have, like I said, you've had a compassion for the animals, and you've had a compassion for snapdragon flowers. I can remember days with those. You were always willing to help. Sometimes I had to ask you twice, but you were always there for me, no matter what. And even if I didn't ask, sometimes you just knew I needed a hug. And like I said, I'm very, very proud of you.
Well, I can honestly say what I do wouldn't have happened because without the work that you did to help knock me upside the head when I needed it, to encourage me to what I could do, and let me know that, anything was possible if I at least put the work into it and made an effort, that you'll get out what you put in, kind of thing. And so for that, I'll always be grateful to you.
Thank you.
All right. So I want to say thank you to all the farm moms out there, especially my mom, everybody out there that pulls their weight, that helps in the farm operation, that is doing all they can to just keep the family farm going. You are probably appreciated more than even or you're appreciated a lot more often than just on Mother's Day. And so remember that, and make sure for those others out there that you're taking care of them farm moms and all the moms out there on this Mother's Day. And that was my mother, Gail Huffman, here joining me on Ag Matters PM. We wish all the mothers out there a happy Mother's Day, and we thank you for joining us as we have run to an end of another program of Ag Matters PM. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, now on TikTok, and you can find our video content as well as former episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. Our twice daily podcasts for markets are on at Google, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Podbean. For Riley Smith, I'm Dustin Huffman here at the IARN Studios in Des Moines. Thanks for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.